Hello, everyone. Happy fall, happy October. We are so excited to be here with you this evening. My name is Dr. Juliette Sweet, and this is Dr. LuLu Shimek over here. Before we get started, I just want to make sure you can all hear us and see us. So if someone's willing to just type that into the questions or chat box, we'd be grateful just so we can propel forward and you're not left behind or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and if someone could just let us know, that would be great, but we'll go ahead and kind of move forward here. We're here to talk about healthy herbs for the holidays. And this is presented by Herbal Herbs, and we're really talking about using medicinal herbs. I missed a B somehow in herbs. So let me fix that before I send you guys the PDF version. Sorry about that. Using those herbs in your food, and as you might have heard, Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut, and let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine. So we're here and we're so excited for that. Thank you, Tina. You said we can hear you. Can you also see us our webcams? So I'm going to introduce my really, really good friend and colleague, Dr. LuLu Shimek. So she's a naturopathic physician and expert in genetic health, working with patients experiencing chronic disease, so autoimmune disease, digestive disorders, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and fatigue. She believes that once we dive deep down to the root of the problem of the distortion and ignite our bodies, they have the ability to heal, and that's an innate ability that we have. And so you can see unimaginable changes in patients' well-being by working with her on those things. Her passion lies in helping people discover their zest and joy for life. And let me just let you know right off the bat, you'll experience it during this webinar. She has a lot of zest and passion and joy for life herself, so it is contagious. Dr. LuLu journeyed through many careers, a true Renaissance woman. She studied interior design at the University of Georgia, and then has a doctorate from the prestigious Bastyr University, and that's how we got to know each other. She's also an international speaker and author, spreading the message of health and education about prevention and well-being. She has a podcast, The Genetic Genius. I highly encourage you to check that out, and is dedicated to genomics and planetary alternative health. She is an author and just released her first book, which focuses on using botanical medicine and other natural modalities to heal the whole body by optimizing vitality, increasing well-being, and enhancing cellular performance. And that book is Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love. And I hope I got it right. Okay. Dr. LuLu facilitates ceremonies to activate plant and mineral medicine, connecting points around the world to elevate planetary consciousness and community. She's the Botanical Medicine Director at the Veterans Healing Farm, and she's in North Carolina, and she's able to share her expertise with the veteran community about using plants to heal and elevate their lives. So much heart. She's invigorated by traveling and seeing the world with her husband and visiting botanical gardens and anything related to delicious food, which is I don't know how we came up with this webinar. I don't think I would have survived medical school if it wasn't for Dr. LuLu's early morning muffins and other goodies that she would make. I could barely get myself out the door with a little half cup of coffee, and she would have these nutritious, delicious treats. So anyways, I'm Dr. Juliette Sweet. I'm a naturopathic doctor and an Ayurvedic practitioner. I also went to Bastyr, and I'm doing clinical education for Herbal Herbs. And so we will talk a little bit more about the company and, be able to, one of my main goals is really to allow other healthcare practitioners to feel comfortable and confident using Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic herbs. And so I sort of bridge those in my practice with patients. So this is just a disclaimer. This webinar is for educational purposes, and Rebel Herbs does not make any representations that either explicitly or implicitly claim that our products are promoted to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent disease. So if you have a health concern, talk to your healthcare professional, and maybe it'll be a naturopathic doctor. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight and give you some demonstrations. This is just a webinar overview. We're going to do a little bit about stress and seasonal changes. I'm going to talk to you about Rebel Herbs and the unique extraction processes they use for the dual extracted powders, and then how we can use those powders in our food for food as medicine. So we're going to give you a few different recipes. Some will be live, some will just be recipes you can try on your own, but we'll talk about each herb that we'll be using, and then we'll also give you some of our favorite tips for staying stress-free, and we'll have time for questions at the end. So first, with Ayurveda, we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So just the elements that we see in nature, those are the same elements inside of us. So we have basically air, which can sometimes be thought of as wind, and space. And then we have our fire, we have our water, and we have our earth. And we all have every element inside of us, and we will have a unique makeup. And so we call that the doshas, and we kind of use that to not only diagnose what's going on with patients, but then also come up with a really comprehensive plan on how to bring those elements back into balance. So the importance of seasonal changes are, as you've been experiencing with fall, there's always a lot of, wind, and cooler temperatures are coming up and lots of change. So anytime there's change, it kind of stresses our nervous system out just a little bit, it's like, did I leave the house with the appropriate layers of clothes, and how to stay warm, and, you're wanting to change food. In the summertime, it's hot, and you're craving cooler foods. And so as things cool down, we want to think about really eating with the seasons, using warming spices to sort of support our nervous system and our immune system, and to be able to adapt to those changes of the seasons and really kind of balance those energies inside of us. And so that's kind of the basis, really simple understanding, but each season can kind of aggravate a specific dosha. And so for fall, and we're moving into winter where it's colder and windier, then we want to think about how to really support Vata. So Vata is the ruler of our nervous system, and it's air and ether, and usually the qualities are cold and changeable, and we see a lot of, in patients that maybe have a Vata imbalance, there's dryness, insomnia, anxiety, constipation. And so that's just a little bit of a background, and then I'm going to let Dr. LuLu talk a little bit more about how stress in general affects our body, and how we're moving into the holidays, which can be a challenging time for people.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Juliette Sweet. It's such an honor to be here today. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, yep.
Okay, great, good. So I'm going to be talking about how stress affects the body. And this is a wonderful diagram that shows all the different areas. When I think about stress, a lot of times people think mainly about the brain, right? The nervous system. But when you see this, you can see that stress affects all the different levels. So even our reproductive system, our hormones, our immune system, everything is affected by stress. And I also put on this diagram here that it also affects your DNA. So when we're thinking about that anti-aging quality, how our skin looks, how we move through each day, and as Dr. Sweet was saying, how the elements, the air and the wind affects us as the change of seasons. So that can be stress on the DNA and our cells actually moving and changing through time and space. And so just a few of the things I wanted to touch base on here. So of course, stress affects our brain. That might be the most common way that we think about stress, right? As anxiety or worry or irritability. We've been at a different time on the planet here, and moving into the holidays, Dr. Sweet and I really wanted to provide everyone with tools to help the holidays be easy and stress-free, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to create this webinar for you, to have a healthy holiday with not, and it's a different time. So when you're thinking about the brain, we can use some of these herbs we're going to talk about today to help relax the system. And the cardiovascular system can really be affected. You can think about when you're running from the bear, the sympathetic nervous system really is heightened, and that's when you'll have maybe an excess rush to the heart, palpitations, or an increase in high blood pressure. The reproductive system can change. You can have a change in your neurotransmitters. You can have a change in your cycles. So we have a lot of different aspects of the body where the hormones are affected. During the holidays, we want to have that great sense of libido, right? So that you can have the time with your loved one and celebrate it through the holidays. So I always, stress can be a factor in that for sure. Joints and muscles. So we're going to be talking about some spicy herbs today, but they're also great anti-inflammatories. And this is a great one to bring on, as we eat through the holidays, as I like to call it. We sometimes will eat different foods that don't agree with our body, and that can be a stress factor, right? And so our body will have that inflammatory response. Let's say, for instance, you're eating too much sugar or having a little bit more eggnog, whatever it is, that can add a different inflammatory response to the system, causing some aches and pains. The gut. Now, this is a big one that is affected by stress. A lot of people, that's where they feel it, right? When you go, oh, I have like butterflies in my stomach, or I feel worried. And this is a really big part of your body that you want to protect as we're moving into the fall season and the winter, because this is where a lot of our immune system, the GALT, our gut immune system, is made and helps protect the system. So as Dr. Juliette was saying, you want to keep your body like warm, and this is a great, I always recommend, wearing nice things around the abdomen, or even having a nice hot pack to help with that. So the immune system, of course, the immune system is highly impacted by stress. And we know that as we've seen a huge impact over the past, 6 or 7 months. And so it's really important to bring on natural foods, natural herbs, to help your body to have a resilience, to be able to, see a virus or bacteria and fight it off as quick as it can, and get your body back on track and functioning. And so I always think, this is the time to bring in those warming herbs to give your body the ignition it needs whenever something might come its way. It's able to fight it off much easier, because when you're impacted from stress, everything starts to kind of, go down the tube. And as you can see, it is affecting your whole body. So this webinar tonight will really be about the tools that you'll have to help the entire body to stay healthy through the holidays.
Wonderful. So a little bit about Herbal herbs and the dual extracted powders. These are just some of them. These are the ones that we're going to be using and talking about tonight. It's a really unique process. Herbal Herbs has figured out how to do a dual extraction, so you're getting the full spectrum of the plant. You're not just getting the hydrophilic or the lipophilic constituents, so the water or fat soluble, but you're getting the full spectrum of the plant. And so what they're able to do is take these different herbs and run it through a CO2 extractor, which is environmentally friendly. No solvents are needed. Nothing toxic is used, which is something you really want to think about if you're putting these herbs in as medicine. And so that pulls out the lipophilic compounds or the fat soluble compounds. And then they take that same plant matter and they do a hydrophilic extraction, pulling out all of those compounds as well. And then they have the technology to actually put those back together. So what you end up getting is a really potent powder. And the powder, it can be extremely concentrated. So that's something I want to just right off the bat let you know, that if you're trying to insert in these herbs for a different recipe, like, you know, if you have a recipe that calls for a teaspoon of ginger, you're going to be wanting to use a lot less of our product because it's pure medicine, highly concentrated. There's actually no plant starch or fiber in this powder. And so what's great is you get a very pure extract, and you can tell with the colors and the smell. Be careful with the ginger. If you smell it, you will probably start crying or sneezing, or, you know, it's very, very potent. And you can, you know, just looking at the color of the turmeric, you can tell the potency. What's awesome is the cinnamon, and we'll talk a little bit about those medicinal benefits, but cinnamon normally is just ground up bark, but without the plant fiber and starch, which is really the bark, and taking just that pure concentrate of medicine, it's naturally sweet. So it's really wonderful for a sugar substitute, and if there's type 2 diabetes in the picture. So you can use these herbs in cold water, hot water, just mix it right in and kind of make a tea, or in your food, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about this evening. So those are the powders. Rebel Herbs, we distribute the medicine here in the United States. We have wholesale options for practitioners. We also offer it to the general public through our apothecary, but we have certified organic farms in India that are fair for life, and really there's a lot of education around organic farming and sustainability. And so the products are third-party tested and everything you'd want to look for in a company. And you can see kind of the pictures of the farms and some of the farmers, and playgrounds are built for the farmers' children, and education, as I mentioned. A lot of the farmers are learning not just about organic farming, but sustainability and how to grow plants, you know, growing rice to feed their family, but also growing bacopa or, you know, gotu kola in the same environment to be able to make money at the same time. So really beautiful stuff happening both in India and here in the United States. So first I want to talk to you about turmeric. You are probably sick of hearing about turmeric and all of the health benefits and everything. So, but we use the rhizome. We can also use the leaf, and there's lots of different constituents. Probably curcumin is something you've heard of. And what we find is curcumin can be kind of challenging when it comes to absorption. So you have to do high quantity. But if you have the full spectrum, there's actually some great studies out there about using the tumerones, which are the lipophilic compounds, which get pulled out in our extract via the CO2 extraction, to increase the absorption rate of curcumin, which is kind of cool. So you're actually using that lipophilic compound from the same plant and increasing the cellular absorption. And we use it for so many different things. Of course, you know, it's anti-inflammatory and helpful if there's inflammation, any sort of itis, which is inflammation in the body. So we look at that. And then it also can be helpful for decreasing blood sugar. So just watch for that if your patients, or if you are yourself are on any sort of diabetes medications. And it also can increase the effectiveness of statins, which are used to decrease cholesterol in the body. So I also put one of my favorite recipes on here. We're not going to make it tonight, but if you have a sore throat, you've probably heard of gargling warm salt water. I like to do salt water, and then I add a quarter teaspoon of the Rebel Herbs turmeric. And just be careful, as you know, it stains anything white, but you can really decrease inflammation locally and help your immune system by gargling with that along with the salt. And so I put one study in here that talks about all the different aspects of the immune system, but we'll keep moving along. Boswellia is also one of the herbs I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to make a unique golden milk where we're actually adding in Boswellia, and it's really known for decreasing inflammation as well. And with turmeric, those two together are just really awesome. a lot of the properties of boswellia are actually more leaning towards the like an anesthetic, so decreasing the pain. And there's some studies out there that with osteoarthritis, it was decreasing pain and actually increasing the joint space for people. So, you know, they were taking x-rays of the knee and then having the patients do boswellia. The pain went down, inflammation went down, but then that cartilage, that joint space actually was helped and revitalized. So we have a little bit of our properties here and safety. There can be a little bit of GI upset. I usually have patients take it, you know, with food or, you know, mix it into food. And so next we're going to do our golden milk. And I'm gonna stop sharing my webcam for a second and move my location.
Transitioning to the kitchen.
Just so we can do this together. Okay.
There
So,
she is.
hi. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick recipe, and basically you can use any kind of milk for golden milk. You can use any nut milk, regular milk. It just kind of depends on what you like and what your dietary preferences are. So I don't have any affiliation with this company, but I like the way it tastes, and it's, you know, pretty pure and clean. It's like a toasted almond coconut milk. And so the recipe I have for you guys on this screen is basically for 2 people, but you can also, you know, make a batch and then put it in the fridge and have it the next day if you want to. This recipe is a little bit focused on having it in the evening time. So to really help to calm your nervous system, you know, warm you up, be cozy, decrease inflammation while you're healing, while you're sleeping, also to help you sleep. And so basically, we're gonna do 2.5 cups of our milk, whatever choice you guys want. And then what I do is, because I really want to preserve the medicine in the powders, all I do is basically start heating up the milk. So I put it on about, you know, medium high, maybe 5 or 6. My stove is like 1 to 9, so just right in the middle. And then we love healthy fats in naturopathic medicine, and because fats are the building blocks for all hormones. And so we really want to think about supporting our nervous system and our hormonal systems by using healthy fats. So you can use coconut oil or you can use ghee. Those are the 2 that I would recommend for golden milk. I have some homemade ghee here, so you can always add a little bit more, but I usually add about a teaspoon, and I forgot my teaspoon, so hold on 1 second. I knew I was doing something. Okay, so as the milk is warming up, I usually add in the healthy fat. And then what I'll do with you guys tonight, and what you can do, you can take a break and then measure it right into the milk, but we'll measure it out and just kind of put it in a little dish so that we can add it in when we turn it down to low. So for my recipe, I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of the Herbal herbs cinnamon. So there's the cinnamon powder, and also a 1/2 teaspoon of the turmeric. So I just want to show you guys, maybe you'll be able to see this, I don't know.
We can see it. Beautiful.
Very, very vibrant and very orange. So like I said, be careful if you're wearing white. And then we're gonna turn this down so it heats up pretty quickly. You can usually just add it right in or add it onto a dish. But I'll turn it down a little bit, and then we'll do a 1/4 teaspoon of the ginger, and the little scoop that comes inside is about a 1/4 teaspoon. But I'm gonna measure it out just so that I can be really efficient tonight. And like I said, really strong with the ginger. The boswellia almost has like a citrusy flavor to it. So I'll do a 1/4 teaspoon of that as well. And you know, you can always mix this up. So Rebel Herbs has powdered ashwagandha, which decreases stress and can be very helpful for lots of different things. We have shatavari, you know, so you can mix it up. So the golden milk plus, you can, you know, change it up, but we're gonna do boswellia tonight. And then what we wanna do is just kind of mix those herbs in there. And so kind of turning it down to low as you mix them in, because the milk, it gets hot pretty quick depending on your stove. It could be, you know, a couple minutes. And then the last thing we want to do is add our honey. And I like to use like local honey, so you get the benefits of the local pollens. And then also having it be raw and unfiltered, you can actually help to stabilize blood sugar in the evening and through your sleep. And so anyways, there's a book, The New Honey Revolution, where they talk all about those studies. And so I recommend for 2 people about 2 tablespoons, but you can play around with it. You know, find the sweetness that works for you. And then the last thing I would recommend is you can do some nutmeg. Nutmeg is a natural sedative, so it's gonna actually help to, excuse me, get you to sleep and help you stay asleep. And so we don't have a nutmeg by Rebel Herbs, but I would recommend putting some nutmeg in, and about a 1/4 teaspoon as well for that. You can always play around with other spices too, cardamom, cloves, that sort of thing, but the nutmeg really does have a sedative effect. So if this is your nighttime beverage, then it will be helpful. Okay, and then the last thing is what I like to do with my golden milk is make it almost like a frothy latte. Because you put in healthy fat, you can froth it up and have it be like a really nice treat. And so I use an immersion blender. So if this gets loud, go ahead and you can turn down your volume. But I'm just gonna do it not very long, just so you guys can see. Okay. Let me grab my favorite little tea mug.
Always you want to have the perfect tea mug.
Yes, my mother-in-law makes, she's a potter. So anyways, you can pour it and share it with a couple people. Like I said, or put it in the fridge for tomorrow. But as you can see, it's frothy, it's golden, it is tasty.
Yum.
Yum. Okay. I'm gonna move back over to my other station here, and I think turn the floor over to Dr. LuLu.
Sure. Well, great. I can't wait to make some golden milk myself tonight. After being wound up from eating all these cookies, I'm gonna need a little sedative myself. Let's talk about some of the wonderful herbs we're going to be using today in our pumpkin spice cookies. So cinnamon, as Dr. Juliette Sweet was talking about, cinnamon lumbarum, we use the bark, and it has some amazing constituents, and that's one of the things that gives it that, it has a lot of properties. It has this sweetness. It also has this bitter and this spicy. I love cinnamon because a little bit goes a long way is one thing, but it also has this great flavor component. When you taste cinnamon, almost everyone can say that's cinnamon. It really has this wonderful flavor aroma. It's a great antioxidant. One of the wonderful reasons why I like using it during this time of year, because it helps protect the cell membrane, protecting from free radicals, such an important thing we need as we're moving into the fall and winter. It's also a great anti-diabetic. So as Dr. Sweet was saying, it really helps to balance blood sugar. So of course today we're going to be using it in cookies. These cookies are really low in sugar, and the cinnamon adds the sweetness. And so you can add cinnamon to your recipes to bring the sweetness, the effect into the recipe when you want to reduce the actual amount of sugar. So let's say you're going to be using coconut sugar or maple syrup or honey. It helps to as a great synergist for those other sugars, and you can use less of it. That makes the recipe taste sweeter, which I love. It's antimicrobial. So again, there's a couple herbs that it's really interesting how during the holidays, we have these herbs and spices that we use that are not only, of course, wonderful, remind us of the holidays, cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg and cloves, but they're also highly antimicrobial and antibacterial. And we need those because there's a lot of things in the holidays floating around in different areas or in our environment, different bugs and microbes. So it's important to have the high antimicrobials. It's a lipid lowering, which helps to reduce cholesterol. It's an anti-inflammatory, great for a holiday booster, helping the body to fight off any inflammation. It's anti-cancer. It's a neuroprotective. I really like this part of cinnamon because during the holidays, our brains have to work so hard balancing all the things with relatives and recipes and just all the different things we're trying to work through. And this gives our brain a little punch, a little power, and protects the neurons of the brain and the neurotransmitters. It's antibacterial and antifungal. So a wonderful spice to mix in. You can use cinnamon in sweet dishes as well as savory dishes and in your formulas too. So you could add it to, if you're going to be making your own chai blend or spices for apple cider. This is a great one to mix in. It really helps for lowering cardiovascular disease. So wonderful for the heart. And I love that about the holiday spices. They're all really great for the heart system. And this is what we really need when we're moving into this next phase of the season to really help us to not only embrace our own holiday love, but share it with those around us. It's very warming. It has the properties of warming spice. Again, that sweet, pungent, and bitter flavor. Just as a little note for safety, you want to make sure that you don't use it in really high doses as an essential oil. It's very strong, especially as Dr. Sweet was saying with the Rebel herb cinnamon. You don't want to use it in pregnancy. And again, because it is a blood sugar balancer, you want to make sure you're using caution with hypoglycemia and other blood sugar conditions because it can lower the blood sugar very quickly. Okay, next slide, Dr. Juliette. Ginger. Oh my gosh, I love ginger. I think I juice with it every day, especially this time of year. We use the rhizome, fresh or dried. So you can, as this beautiful picture is showing you in the slide, you can use it in that fresh part. But you can also, buy it in the root. You can dry your own, and it's very sustainable, and it will last for a long time. In general, I recommend not keeping herbs and spices for more than a year. So I always date them when I get them and just make sure that I'm using them appropriately and efficiently. You don't want them to go to waste, but you could always compost them in your garden. So constituents, you can see here that it has lots of gingerone, right? Gingerol, gingerdones, zingerone, essential oils. You know, when you smell ginger, it's so spicy and pungent. It has great action. So again, anti-inflammatory, another wonderful herb we're bringing in for the anti-inflammatory season of stress. Because remember, as we talked about in the beginning, stress is one of our main aspects that we're helping the body deal with over the holidays. It's an analgesic, and that means that it helps to reduce pain. So you can use it internally, but you can also use it topically too in a poultice or something like that. You could use, it's an antioxidant, so again, great for that cell membrane protector, helping to fight off free radicals. You know, during the holidays, a lot of times we'll be doing a lot of traveling, maybe not quite as much as we're used to this year, but we're exposed to a lot of environmental toxins, driving, being in the pavement, being at the airport. You know, hopefully we'll be able to start moving some of those things back into our lives shortly. But it's great to think about having something in your toolbox to help your body to fight off free radicals. They're all around us. It's an anti-nausea. Ginger's claim to fame, right? People really use it for nausea. So again, great for traveling and adding into things. You know, sometimes I like to have it as a little nightcap, but sometimes that can be too spicy or stimulating for people. But I like ginger tea after a really heavy meal, because it really will help your body to break down the food more efficiently and help your body, not that you have, you know, nausea after every meal, but it really helps the gut. It's an anti-diarrheal, so if you're having, let's say you're having a holiday meal and something didn't quite agree with you, then you could bring this in. It's an anti-arthritic. It's wonderful for joint pain. So you could combine it with two of the herbs we talked about earlier, turmeric and boswellia. You could make a great dose of your, like the golden milk or some other type of tea. It's antibacterial and anti-cancer, antifungal, regulates blood sugar. You can see that there's a lot of similarities between the wonderful herbs that we're discussing this evening. Lowers cholesterol and improves brain function. You can see that why I love ginger, because of all of these properties. It's amazing. It's very warming, as you know when you taste it. It's very spicy and increases circulation, again, through the whole body. So it's great to have in cookies because it helps get everything moving. And you do want to use caution with if you're on any blood thinners or aspirin when using a large dose of ginger. So just make sure you're aware of that. Okay, next slide. Yay for cookies. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to make some cookies. We're not going to completely make them, but we're going to do something similar to that. So first we're going to make the liquid part. Dr. Juliette, could you go to the next slide?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, so I already measured everything out. I have the butter melted already. Okay, so one thing about this recipe is you can substitute pretty much anything that for some of the major ingredients. So for instance, if you're not doing any dairy, you could use ghee, or you could use coconut oil, another type of fat. So we're gonna add in our butter to a small bowl here. You guys can't really see that well, but I just add the butter into a bowl, and then we're gonna use pumpkin. So I always like to get organic pumpkin when, of course, if I'm going to buy it. You can also make your own pumpkin if you're super motivated. You can get the little sugar pie pumpkins and cook it. It's really not that hard. And when you do it, you'll be surprised how much that you make. So if you're, you know, that's a good one to do now, because actually when I went to the store, I had to go to 4 stores to buy pumpkin. So I don't know if we're having a rush on it or something, but just FYI about that. So sugar. Tonight I'm using coconut sugar, and you can use any type of other substitute for sugar. You could even use, if you're doing a keto diet, you could use erythritol or swerve. And so there's lots of different sugars. I like coconut sugar because it has a very low glycemic index. So we're talking about healthy recipes. We want to make sure we're giving your body the ability to still have something sweet and like, yes, I had a cookie, but also to not have a really high increase in your blood sugar, which is a driver of inflammation. So I'm going to add sugar here. Can you still hear me? I lost my little ear pod. Okay, so I added in now the sugar. Okay, and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. So I have it in a little dish here. And you can use another sweetener. You could use honey, like Dr. Sweet was saying, is a great one, or you could use agave, any type of your liquid sweetener. Now, I wouldn't suggest, you could use stevia as an alternative for some of these sweeteners, but you got to be careful when using stevia because it is really sweet. So it's hard to kind of use this recipe and change it up for that. But you could do probably like 1 drop if you wanted to do that instead of the maple syrup. This is vanilla. I'm going to add in some vanilla. And then we're going to blend that up. So this is a little concoction here. I'm going to blend it. I just use an easy hand mixer, super easy. And you want to, you'll see it combines in like 1 minute. So it kind of makes this wonderful little pumpkin-y stew or syrup, wet mixture. Okay, so we got that. And then we're going to make our dry mixture. So you want to have a nice bigger bowl for this. And you're going to use almond flour. So I just went ahead and measured it out. But this is not the proper measuring cup. You want to make sure you're using a dry measuring cup when you're measuring flours, things like that. This is just a liquid one, just to let you guys know. So add that. So you could use a different flour, but just be cautious because when you are using different flours, your cookies or other baking products that you're going to make will completely change their texture and flavor. So I really recommend, you could probably use cassava. I didn't try that when I was doing my taste testing, but you could probably substitute cassava. This is almond flour. So I'm sorry, coconut flour. So 3 tablespoons of coconut flour. Great there. And then we have 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and a little bit of salt. And then I went ahead and I made a mixture here. So you can make your own pumpkin pie spice, super easy. And I did that with the Herbal herbs. So I used the ginger and cinnamon. So of course, I didn't use quite as much as this recipe says here because they're a little spicier, like Dr. Juliette said. So I would make those a little bit less, but you can always play with it. I like my cookies really spicy, so you can play with that. But I always recommend making your own pumpkin pie spice instead of buying at the store. And the reasoning behind that is most people only use pumpkin pie spice once a year. And I always think, well, what happens to all the other ones that they didn't sell? So I just don't think it's as fresh. So we're going to use 1 tablespoon of that. I'm just going to mix it in here. It smells, oh my God, so good, so good. Okay, we got everything there. And then what you want to do is you want to take your wet ingredients and we're going to mix it into the dry ingredients. Super easy. I don't know if Dr. Juliette mentioned in the beginning, but I used to have a baking company in San Francisco. I also was a pastry chef in New York. So I love to bake. And I guess it's probably like she did say I used to bake when we were in school together, but I love to make. I could probably spend, and then when I wasn't, seeing patients, of course, my whole time in the kitchen, I'd be super happy.
So
I might be
enjoy your meals too.
That's right. I might need to get a bigger pair of pants. But not with this recipe because we're using healthy sugars and fats. Okay, so you want to mix your wet and your dry mixture together until it makes a good cookie dough. Then you let this cookie dough, let's see, can you go to the next slide, please, Dr. Juliette?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so you mix your dough up. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like here. So you mix your dough up, and from there, this recipe says to let it sit for 5 minutes. I'm not going to do that with you guys, but that's just to allow the baking soda to mix in with the dough and really activate, okay? Especially when we're using something like this. Okay, You know what? I didn't put the egg in, did I?
I don't think I
forgot to get it. I'm gonna grab it, you guys, because that would be bad. I think I forgot to get it out of the refrigerator earlier, so I'm just gonna mix it in separately. This is not what you would usually do with the recipe, but this is how things go when you're on a webinar. You
try to get everything laid out, and then you forget your teaspoon, so it's okay.
Right. So I'm gonna mix it up. I just noticed that it didn't seem like the texture wasn't quite how I was like, it seems a little dry. And then I was like, oh, it's because it doesn't have the egg in there. So it's okay. It's not going to mess up the cookie or anything. But my family would totally notice. Because of course they've been asking me all day if they could eat them. Okay, so then you mix up your lovely dough. And so you would let that sit for 5 minutes. And I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. It looks like a lot better now. It kind of looks like almost like if you made a pumpkin cake or something. You can see it's much more, the consistency is better. So you let that sit. And then I like to use a cookie scoop, an ice cream scoop. This is a pretty big one, but you can use a smaller size. So you take a nice scoop of the dough, and then you're going to make a nice little ball with it. And then you take your cinnamon and sugar. So this is the Rebel Herbs sugar, and I mixed it, and it's in the recipe on the other page there. I mixed it with a little coconut sugar, and you're gonna roll it until it makes a nice little coating. Oh my God, this is the best part, really. This is why these cookies won and the taste off. Then you're gonna put your cookies up, you're gonna line up your little balls on the sheet, and then you wanna press them down with the palm of your hand till they're about a 1/4 inch thick. Still keeping that round quality. Then you would stick them in the oven, and then look, ta-da! They're already made. They came out so fast. So you can make them whatever size you like. I like my cookies bigger, so I always make them with a bigger cookie scoop. But super easy, you know, and a great one for the holidays and for your healthy season. I'm just gonna wash my hand while you're going on to the next slide, Dr. Sweet.
Okay, I really want to be able to reach my hand into the computer and pull out cookies for to have with my golden milk.
I know, me too. We were going to do a virtual exchange.
So amazing. So a good combo to have together. You have lots of anti-inflammatory spices, and like Dr. LuLu said, you know, we're trying to make, you know, no one wants to be deprived. So having delicious things during the holiday is important, but let's make it as healthy as we can and medicinal. So the next thing I want to talk about is holy basil. This is also a powder that's available as a dual extracted powder from Rebel Herbs. And it's really sacred in India and really reverend for so many different things. It's known as the elixir of life and the prevention for everyday ailments. So having Tulsi tea as part of a daily routine in Ayurveda is absolutely something that you might have heard of. They usually have a sacred Tulsi plant in their courtyard or outside of their door, which helps to protect the household. There's a few different varieties. And these are just some of the, These are just some of the herbal actions of holy basil. And it's really all of the herbs we're talking about are considered rasayanas, which are rejuvenative tonics in Ayurvedic medicine. So something that you would incorporate on a daily basis to really prevent disease and to be able to sustain your health. But as you can see, so many different things that we can use holy basil for. And when we're talking about stress and needing some support during the holidays, it absolutely can help with that. And so I am going to make with you this evening a holy basil honey, which can also be kind of turned into a syrup. And I'm going to do the thing where I move to the kitchen again and
presto changeo, she's moving into a new location.
Okay.
Yeah, holy basil is one of my favorite plants. And then while you're talking, I'm gonna go see if I can grab some fresh to show you guys in my garden. I'll be right back.
Wonderful. So a holy basil honey is really simple with using Rebel Herbs dual extracted powder. So I would recommend about a half a cup of honey, which you can get a jar like this, which is basically going to be holding about double that. Put in the honey, and then you can do about a half a teaspoon of just the powder, and you can make it as strong as you want if you're one that likes to taste herbs that are really earthy. And so I'm just going to add the powder right into the honey. And because of the way it's extracted, we don't have to worry about waiting for it to infuse. It will change a little bit over time. And so you want to just make sure that you mix it up really good. It kind of emulsifies in there because there's no plant starch or fiber, as I mentioned. So it should kind of mix in really easily. And is that your fresh Tulsi?
Yeah, it's from, so this is from the medicinal garden that I run in Hendersonville. And yeah, so I brought it home and we've been planting, we had it fresh in my garden outside, but oh my God, it smells so good. And it grows like a weed in a beautiful way. But if you just plant this much and it's a perennial, it'll come back every year. So I definitely recommend it as one of the plants you can have in your garden.
That is awesome. It's so beautiful. I love the purple flowers too.
Me too, me too.
So if you want to change, so this holy basil honey is ready to go. You could add it into any tea. You can take it by the spoonful. It's really easy. What I like to do is to add in some fresh lemon, kind of make it a little bit more liquidy. So I would recommend a half of a full, depends on how lemony you want it, but I'm going to use half of this lemon. And you just want to make sure that if you're adding it to the honey and holy basil, that you use something that's going to strain out the seeds and some of the pulp. But basically, you just squeeze it in there. You know, lemon juice is a preservative, but after you do this, I'd probably keep it in the fridge just for, you know, and honey's a preservative too. But I'd probably keep it in the fridge just to, you know, make sure your product has longevity. I think I'm just going to add the whole thing because I really like lemon. So anyways, so you just add that to your honey. And then you'll want to give it another stir because the lemon juice is kind of at the top. And so this is going to make more of like a syrup. It's going to be a little bit more liquidy than just having the holy basil in the honey. And so what's great is you can add this right into warm beverages. And Dr. LuLu is going to talk about a really fun beverage that we made up for you as just one option for your immune system.
Yeah. Okay, so of course we had to make a hot toddy, you know, but you don't, so this is hot toddy is a great way to use your honey basil syrup that Dr. Juliette just showed you how to make, and super easy. So take a cup of hot water, 3/4 a cup of hot water, 2 teaspoons of your honey basil syrup, and then you can add bourbon if you, or some other type of liqueur or liquor if you'd like. It's optional, of course, but I think it's nice to, if you like that type of thing, it does help your body to relax. Really great stress reliever. And then you can add some more lemon juice. Now we did already make the syrup that Dr. Juliette showed you with lemon, so you could, that might be a percentage that changes based on your tart flavor. You want to add all of those ingredients to warm them up, cocktail shaker, shake and strain into a hot toddy glass and garnish with a cinnamon stick. I like to use a nice clear one. Those are fun because you can see the spices rolling around. You could add an anise star or some cloves, really spice it up for the holidays.
I love it. You know, like I said, it's no one wants to be deprived. So it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to have a beverage, you know, during a holiday party, let it be also medicinal and helpful for my immune system. So
That's right.
wonderful. So Dr. LuLu, could you give us your favorite tips for managing holiday stress?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, first of all, stay hydrated. It's super easy when you have lots of stuff going on during the holidays to forget to drink water. So that's key. You know, we think it's the basic foundations that usually go down the tubes when we're stressed out. So water is key. Limit your sugar intake and eating intuitively. Listen to your gut. Let your brain and your gut connect and have a nice conversation while you're at the dinner table. Pick the things that are going to stimulate your immune system and your vitality and nourish you through the holidays. Boost your immune system with nutrient-dense foods. So when you're going to the store, shop on the outside of the aisles instead of the inside. The outside will have all of the wonderful vegetables and fruits and the high vibrant things that will provide nutrient-dense nutrients to your diet. I think that was too many nutrient words, but you know what I mean.
You never get enough nutrients, you know?
That's right. Make an immune boosting soup. So there's lots of recipes out there. Dr. Juliette and I learned one from Dr. Bastyr, one of our founders of our school. It has shiitakes and shiitake mushrooms, onions, garlic, carrot, cabbage, ginger. So you could basically make something wonderful with the herbs that we talked about today. You could Google some wonderful recipes as well. So make an immune boosting soup. I usually make a big pot and then I'll drink it if I feel like something coming on. You know how you have that little tickle in the back of your throat, or you're saying, something might be coming my way. This is the perfect time to either pull the immune soup out of the freezer. I like to make a big batch, stick it in the freezer, and then I don't have to think about it. I can just pull it out and eat it right away. Rest up. So this is key. Really make sure you're getting at least that 6 to 8 hours at night, every night when you're during the holidays. It's easy to go to holiday parties or stay up and watch holiday movies or anything like that. But also when your body's in that stress state, it's really easy to not sleep well. So use some of these wonderful things we've been teaching you today. The golden milk, use that before you go to bed, or use the next tip, exercising. So exercising, make sure you're exercising at least 30 minutes a day. It can be a little bit challenging if you live in a cold area, but use YouTube. YouTube's got some great things. You know, we probably, with quarantine, we've all figured out a whole new way to exercise. So as we move into the winter time, make sure you're getting exercise. And it doesn't have to be high intensity cardio. You could do some yoga, you could do some Pilates, you could vacuum the house, you could clean, you know, there's lots of ways to get your heart rate up, but 30 minutes at least. If you're the type of person that finds that cardio is helpful to go to sleep, do it in the evening. If you're finding you need something more relaxing, do some nice yoga before bed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to share with you just a few tips from Ayurvedic perspective. Anything that's warming and balancing for the fall and winter. So using breathing techniques to balance the nervous system, alternate nostril breathing, even part breath, breath of fire, increasing that sort of warmth inside of you. The nervous system loves oil and healthy fats. So not only can you increase ingestion of those, but also doing oil massage. Great if you can get it a little bit warm after a shower. That's something you can do on a daily basis. Soaking in hot mineral water or taking baths, just making sure that you're really staying warm. Nature time and getting your exercise in. And then fire is very therapeutic. So having fires in the home and kind of meditating on the flame can be really awesome as well. And we've been talking about it, using warming spices in warm food is going to be number one. Food is medicine. So we have, for more information, you can go to rebelherbs.com. I am going to be sending out an email to all participants with a PDF of the presentation. I'll fix my mistake in the beginning, and then we're going to have a coupon code. So we have wholesale accounts for practitioners, and we're available on lots of different third-party distributing sites, but we'll also have a coupon for the powders for the general population as well. And then we have a consumer dispensary, rebellionapothecary.com. And for more information on how to find Dr. LuLu, we're both doing virtual consultations during this time, and to check out all of her awesome things, the Genetic Genius podcast, her new book. Here's all of her information, and then my information as well. And if you have questions about Rebel Herbs specifically, feel free to contact me, dr.sweet@rebelherbs.com. And we just want to really thank you for being here today. And I know we are at the time right now, but if you have any questions, we will be happy to stay a few minutes afterwards and answer any questions. You can just kind of put them in the chat box, and we would be happy to take a few minutes. And we just want to thank you for joining us for a really fun experience and to be able to connect with all of you. It's really been it's really special to be able to connect and talk about medicine and plants. And I want to thank with all my heart Dr. LuLu for being here with me tonight and making this so fun. You just make everything fun. So thank you.
This is my middle name, you know. Yeah, thank you for having me. I had so much fun just talking about herbs, my biggest passion, and then of course cooking, my second biggest passion. So that's a great combo. Do we have any questions coming up in the chat?
You know, I don't see any questions. So if anybody does have questions or something comes up post-webinar, feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to answer those at any time. And so with that, we'll just say happy fall, happy holiday season. May you be well, and may you enjoy delicious, healthy foods that give you vitality and revitalize you instead of depleting you. Do you have any final words, LuLu?
Yeah, just thank you everyone so much for attending, and I wish that the rest of your 2020 is filled with love and peace and moving into a wonderful new 21 that we could never even imagine how wonderful it's going to be.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.